everyone. Welcome back to Before the Fame podcast. We have two special guests here today. One who has already been with us, Jonathan, my brother. And we also have another special guest here. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Martiana.
Alrighty, Marti. And today we're going to get into a special episode. This is the Education Over Shame series, and today we're going to be talking about balance. So everything that we are talking about is going to balance itself out, whether we're talking about good versus evil, matriarchy versus patriarchy, and we're just going to keep going with that concept, but we're going to tie this into a movie that we all have seen. Hopefully you guys have seen it too. This is Sinners, and this episode is very special to me because I feel like this is going to tie into not only our personal lives today, but ancestry, history, and things that we, just get into when we talk about how we got to this point. But before we get into that, I want to ask you guys today, what is your definition of balance? So, Jonathan, we'll start with you. What do you think is balance to you?
Balance is filtering out what does not feed your soul or your energy. Because if you don't do that, then, you're just having whatever enter your temple, your body, your spirit, whatever you want to call it. And just about, as crazy as it sounds, like chilling. Like I equate balance to like chilling because, if you balance it, like it's not rising, it's not lowering, it's kind of, just.
Right, so it's in the middle, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And you can look at that as like chilling. Like you could go out, turn up, go to a club, spend money that you really don't need to be spending. Or you could be like, I'm going to chill at the crib, call up a nice little shorty, and kick it. So, yeah.
I believe that balance is embracing your light and your darkness. Embracing the light and the dark. And balance is also duality, those polarities, that yin and yang. You're balancing your feminine and your masculine. So being open to receiving and knowing when to take action, but it's a matter of both so that you stay in alignment.
Right.
And you can't have one without the other. Right. So everything ain't gonna always be light, and it ain't gonna always be dark. But you want to you want to embrace both, and you want to. What's the saying I said earlier? You gotta. The only way out is through. So confronting your shadow side, your darkness, in order to reach that light. That makes sense.
And I agree with both of you guys wholeheartedly. I think the only thing that I would add to that is that we have to look at it like, okay, we have 24 hours in a day. Half of those hours are spent working and improving ourselves, and the other half of those hours are spent resting and, just gaining that energy back that we spent doing those tasks or, going out to achieve our goals. And there's a balance in making sure that we are okay, because, sometimes we have to, make sure others are okay, or making sure that our children have been fed or anything like that. But then you got to take that time for yourself to make sure that you're okay. And today we're going to get over those topics as well, because like I said, this is a Sinners episode. So we're going to tie some of this or most of this to the Sinners characters, and we're going to get into the first topic of fake villains versus real villains. And I want to ask you guys, who do you think was the real villain in Sinners? Because there's a lot of, subplots here. There's a lot of people that, you could make your villain, but who is the real villain in your story or your vision of this movie, Jonathan?
I'm the villain. I'm the villain. The bad guy, no, I'm just playing. I must go out on a limb and say, most people gonna say, "Oh, it's the white vampire." No, I think what Ryan Coogler was trying to say was it could be anybody or anything. Like going back to what I was saying about filtering, because again, it wasn't necessarily, we gotta watch out for the white people. No, he was actually coming on some, inclusivity, versus exclusivity. If you think about it, especially during, I think the movie's like 1932. So I think is any energy or any energy vampire that comes around, and like I said, that could be a person, that could be a place, that could be a thing that is, draining, you or your community from, what it is for the most part. I'm not gonna say it was necessarily the vampires, because I just think that was like a representation, because to me color didn't matter. Like I said, anyway, a vampire only cares about blood, so it wouldn't be about skin, it wouldn't be about Jim Crow, none of that shit. So I think that's what Remick was, a physical manifestation of energy vampire that, like I said, hell, today, like I said, that you have those kind of people or those kind of things. So, but
okay,
I think that so we know that every villain has a backstory, and I felt like who people thought were the villains in the movie, they didn't just, I guess start out like that.
Right.
It was something that happened to him. So I guess that's why people say the real villain is the white man, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Remick.
Not Remick.
The white supremacy.
The white supremacy, because Remick was Irish.
I was about to say
and
he was not. To me, that was the fake villain.
I mean, people still say white man.
Yeah, and he spoke about it when we seen him reciting the Bible with Sammy, and he spoke how he felt about that, and how his people, they came over and colonized, they on their land, or however you want to put it.
Basically did the same thing.
So, I mean, I guess, because I'm really about to answer the whole, I was going to say, I think the real villain is the white supremacists, or white supremacy, or the white man, but not Remick, or
white supremacy could be
not Remick or Smoke or Stack. I feel like I guess you could say it felt like the odds were stacked against them. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's where we go into the choices and the circumstance. I think the only person, not a villain, but just actually made the choice, they didn't care about the external or the material, was Annie. Mm-hmm. Even when, because Smoke tried to offer her the money, whatever, she was stuck in, she was grounded in her belief, in her, in her spirituality. I was going somewhere else with this, but yeah, so maybe, I guess the circumstance would maybe what turned them into the villain, or made them look like a villain to everybody.
Okay. So, had layers to this question because
Yeah, I was thinking hard about this
when I watched it the
simple,
first
man.
time, I was like, okay, everybody want to look at the vampires, but they talking about love. They talking about unity.
Can you pause for 1 second?
Oh, go ahead.
Now you remember, Remick talking about inclusivity and community, like everybody being one.
Right.
But Remick also had the trauma of wanting
to
to go back where he was or being, you know, with his family again. And remember, Annie said, she said, I feel pain.
Right.
Yeah, because not to cut you off, but
And so he was trying to create that. Oh, y'all, I'm sorry. He was trying to create that through he couldn't find it. He kept searching for it, and he felt like he could get that through Sammy.
Right.
Because Sammy was piercing the veil with his gift.
Okay. And that's a valid. To me, that's valid. That's valid.
Okay.
But what you about to say?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the movie, like the bad guy was the energy vampire, because no matter, like, you can look at technically the white supremacists or even related to the music part. Like, if you're going back to the blues and all that stuff, like, technically those people that were putting up, like, they were vampires for those artists. Like, they didn't necessarily do the right thing by them. They didn't pay them everything that they was owed. Like, they literally took. It was like, hey, you're this blues artist, but behind the scenes, we're taking and even for the actual vampires, it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna take your blood and all the other stuff, but wait, you actually can, as Remick said, connect me to my people. Going back to what I was saying, like, not everybody has that gift of being able to connect people. Like, not everybody can, whether it's your voice, whether it's whatever, bring people. That's what I was saying. Like, having energy vampires, I feel like that's the evil in the movie. Because hell, I don't feel like I done had people that I've known that are energy vampires. Like, yeah, they're not actual monsters, but what I went through or being around you, and as soon as I was like able to get from around you, it's like, okay, I snap out of it. Like, I'm like, damn. Like, okay, I was about to fall under the spell. Like, I'm tripping, So, but, and I feel like, especially like I said, for the white supremacists, because again, they vampires as far as, like I said, the money. Like, they don't necessarily, capitalism. Like, that's a better way to put it. Like, they don't care about the black people, what they got going on. They just like, give me your money.
As far as the energetic vampires, like, it's like they bring you down with them, or they suck the life out of you to make themselves feel good. And that's just even with people that just got a light about themselves, or they're a lighthouse for other people.
Being a good person, like,
yes,
like people,
and sometimes,
like, bruh.
That's where, when we did the read earlier, that's when my discernment came in. So, like, people really got this shadow. Like, they showing me one thing, but internally they don't really. And sometimes it's unconscious. They don't really have good intentions. Mm-hmm. But that's because they have something that they need to work on internally.
And I feel like that's what Remy was dealing with too. It was like, and why he kind of catered to it was poetry, him trying to cater to the black people, because, again, like I said, if you don't know history, you might just look at everything and be like, oh, why is this and da-da-da, but no, like, the Indians helped the Irish people with the famine, Remick, catering to the Ku Klux Klan, like, all of that stuff, and, just being like, okay, like,
yeah, you know how to play with that.
And I'm glad that you brought that up.
He was literally taking from
glad
that, like,
you brought that up.
He trying to take from everybody,
Because
bro. Like, he's an energy vampire, bro.
Who I vision as the real villain, and I agree with both of y'all points of the energy vampires, the people who are dealing with they're dealing with unresolved trauma. Yes, we look at the vampires over here as a villain, of course, but to me, the real villain is the white supremacists, the KKK, because they sold.
They sold make this a race thing, man.
No. We're not making this about race, but they sold the land knowing that they were going to come back eventually, whether they were alive or dead, they were going to come back eventually to take care of business. And we saw in the movie that Stack and Smoke, they said, hey, if y'all come back, we gonna kill you. And that's exactly what he did at the end. But, you know, we getting ahead of ourselves.
Was that not the being? But was that not them being?
That to me is why I
that's them
said
being vampires though. Like,
no. See, that's I agree with what you said.
Not in the like they're physically vampire. But I'm saying in the.
That's why I said I agree with that.
Evil is whether it's the Irish vampire, whether it's the white supremacist, is whoever you allow to. Well, actually,
he didn't allow it though.
Not necessarily allowed, but Smoke and Stack, yes, they were doing business, but technically, like I said, that's still you allowing that evil to come in. And going back to the basis of the whole, you gotta let evil come in to where you at. Like, I'm glad that, you know, Ryan like took it back to that, because like most people forget that about vampires. It's like, no, you gotta. Again, you could be over here doing this in your crib, but if you allow certain energies, if you say, or for us, if we having a house party and we allow a nigga that we know is on some fuck shit in, I mean, whatever happens after that is like, well, you invited that energy in. Like,
I also think, aside from what we said, what we thought who the villain was, I think also the villain is anyone in desire of something or having more. So they make that deal. They invite it in, whether it's for money, money, anything like that. Because what are the 7 deadly sins? Greed,
sloth,
wrath, gluttony,
pride. Did we say it all?
Gluttony. We said like 5 of them. We missing like 1 or 2, but
lust.
Yeah, lust. Can't forget that.
I was about to say lust. That we gonna get into that too. Yeah, everything was presented in this movie.
I mean,
and that's what kept that going. Like, that's what's keeping that energy going.
Because I feel like in 2025, for me personally, I don't see no blood sucking they on my neck, but I felt energy vampires where I'm like, no, I need to get away from whatever house, whatever people, whatever, like, I need to get away from that shit.
Okay, so pride, envy, wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, lust.
Yeah.
And this is why I said it's a layered question, because on the surface you can say, all right, the vampires, the energy suckers, but then when you get deeper into it, I think the Klan, the white supremacy was definitely a villain. But even deeper than that, you can also say Sammy's father was a villain as well, because he didn't necessarily want his son to be free.
But
I was going to get into that part on our next tape. Yeah.
but that's go back to, and this is just me personally. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care. For me, being somebody that's able to play a musical instrument, like, that's what I was telling Martiana. I said, like, I could go to some place in the South and somebody look at me playing a baritone, they'd be like, bro, like, you sold your soul. Like they'd be like, bro, how you know how to play that well,
they
bro?
Think
like,
that you got that gift from the devil.
And for me, it's just like, and why I like the fact that Sammy kept playing throughout, because going back to what I was saying, like, you do what you want. Just because your dad tell you, hey, this is bad. Even if you seen like, damn, this banjo and this music brought all this trouble.
So this is what I wanted to say. His, and I guess kind of going into the next question, the father, he's very, I guess you could say traditional, like he real or strict on certain things. And I do feel like some people's fear of engaging in certain things and areas, or using our gifts, because using your gifts, you are on that line or that thinning veil. Like they said in the beginning, you can heal, but you can also attract other entities that aren't so welcome. And I feel like a lot of elderly people like that, because they have experienced some things, they automatically write it off as this is evil, we not gonna mess with this is what we not gonna do.
They say this is evil, the devil's lettuce.
I am glad that Sammy chose to keep playing, because we go back into balance. And then you also have a choice. You can use your gifts in
you can use it for the right reasons, right?
In the right way, in a healthy way, in a healthy manner. You have a choice not to.
So let me ask you. I'm sorry, not to cut you off. Let me flip it from the musical thing going back to gifts, because technically, some people could look at Miss Annie, her gifts, like, you got some people that would look at it and be like, I don't know, man, that's that witch stuff, man, da da da. But then you got some people that's like, no, or even how she carried herself, it's like she didn't really. I could tell they didn't show their relationship. I could tell, like, even when she was with Smoke, she didn't seem like the type that was overly bearing or overly. She like, hey, look, this is what I believe in. Put this on. It's gonna protect you. So and I guess what I'm saying, some people could look at that as kind of what I was saying, like with the music thing. Like, I look at that as, okay, no, I got a gift. I can play an instrument. Yeah. But they might look at that as like, well, I don't know, that's that devil stuff or that voodoo stuff.
I think for some people it's hard to believe, and also because they don't understand it. And also another aspect is colonization.
Damn, no, that's you gotta throw that in there, like, because Christianity, mission, like that matters.
You gotta remember back to the white man coming in, or the oppressor
talking about God
coming in, like switching up stuff to have control, to be in control. Because what was happening was a lot of our ancestors were using root work and voodoo or to protect themselves from the slave master. That's what was happening. Because it was really doing some things to them, because they were harming our ancestors. So, like, even for example, if I'm not mistaken, one of my tarot decks, my hoodoo tarot decks, it gives like a backstory on Frederick Douglass, and his slave owner was messing with him, and he went to like a root worker or whatever to help him. So I had found it interesting that Miss Annie had gave the kids the High John, the High John Conqueror root, because I think that was one of the things that were also used for protection, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
One of the things I thought about, like, or what I loved about like Smoke and Miss Andy's dynamic. Like, you could tell early on, like I said, Smoke tell you right away. And he said, "Look, I done killed niggas. I done seen men get killed. Like, I know you talking about demons and all that stuff, but like I said, they weren't dismissive of each other. Like you could really tell. Like I said, when that cornbread scene happened, like, most movies, the guy, which is why I like when Cornbread was like, yeah, Smoke, like he trying to go back to the man, like, oh yeah, I need to be talking to you. Right. She like, no, hell no, fuck that. And you see Smoke look at her like,
yeah,
no.
She knew, she felt that instantly.
I'm going with what she say over you, my boy. Like,
and with Annie and Smoke's relationship, I feel like you said, they weren't dismissive of each other. Annie really loved Smoke. One, and she knew that he was being faced with his circumstances. That's the way he chose to go about things. I think she knew that as well. That's why she's not so dismissive of you know, his view on things and his lifestyle.
So you just answered the next question.
You
answered,
sorry.
You answered the next question.
I'm sorry, the last thing, but that's why I'm like, I also like the part where, you know, you find out that he was wearing, I don't know.
The Mojo bag.
Right, because it's like she said,
everybody
have one of those. She called him out on his shit. It was like, yeah, you talking all that, but you got this on though.
But
okay.
he hurt me.
So
he hurt me a little bit.
So that kind of showed his
said,
belief, though. If you think about it, like.
But when he mentioned the miscarriage, when he hit that, I was like, you ain't have to hurt our feelings like that. But that's what I was saying.
He gave a man's response because I'm
did.
not gonna lie.
But that's what I was saying earlier about fate, and I do believe that everything happens for a reason.
True.
So even like from my personal experience having, you know, a miscarriage, like I think it was just actually really not being prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And this is God saying, no, this is not what I want for you right now. But ultimately it caused like a little shift in my lifestyle, like, because I already have a kid, you know, getting more prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Getting more prepared, and I still got things that I need to get done before I get to that point of having, you know, caring for another child. But yeah, but that's what I was saying about fate. Some things are fated, like, because he said something. Why? How come, you know, that didn't work on the, you know, the miscarriage?
But see, I interpreted that two ways. That was the first. The second one was, and
him trying to discredit what she do too. That was. I feel like he was trying to.
I feel like he was the. You could look at it.
But he was hurt.
He was more so hurt.
He's hurt.
And when he was like said like why you can do that, you know, for our baby. I also feel like, you know, the brothers, you know, thought that they came, you know, from evil. So, you know, not saying that he necessarily put the miscarriage on himself because he like, yo, like I done did a whole bunch of bad shit. Like it might be like some, you know, karma type stuff, you know, coming back on me. But, you know, like how like people talked about them and, you know, like how Smoke reacted. It was like, you know, yeah, he was, you know, kind of digging when he said that, you know, because like, come on, like don't nobody. Mm-hmm. Even Christian people can't just pray to God and be like, I need to be able to pay this bill tomorrow, God. I'm praying to you right now and it happened tomorrow. No, that's not how that works. So, you know, but I feel like, you know, Smoke might have also looked at it like, damn, I done did a lot of, you know, evil shit. And if it protected me.
I feel like it was karma.
And like karma, like, damn, like coming back. So.
And since we are already on the topic.
But I could be. Could be wrong.
This is the balanced episode, and I just want to say, Smoke and Stack's characters, I learned a lot from their dynamics because you had one brother who was over here. He was charismatic. He made sure to give the
he knew how to get people's attention.
He made the people feel good in Stack. And then you had Smoke, who was the observant one, who was quiet. He made sure to make sure the business was going according to plan. And I think that with those two balances, you had a very smart, like, plan of, like, all right, we're going to do this tonight. We're going to make sure that we give these people a good time. And we also gonna make money in the same breath.
They threw a party. There's some Atlanta niggas, if you ask me. But
very much so. Very much so. Southerners.
Yeah,
to the team.
Some Atlanta niggas.
They gonna show the Southern hospitality. And what I want to ask you guys again, Marty already answered, but do you think that they became villains by choice or by circumstance?
Well, if it's on me, my definite, when it comes to villains, it depends on what causes you to do what you need to do.
Well, you
So
know,
it sounds like choice.
That's why
the twins definitely
It
made
sound
it.
like
The
choice.
twins they definitely made a choice. That's why with them coming back, it was like people kind of pissed. Like they come in talking like everybody we know da, but they really running from shit. If you kind of peep the movie, like they really set up some shit and they like no.
you got to look at why they ran though.
I mean, why you ran and. Again, like I said, everything comes back to choice because, like, the things that I do, like, again, there's some things, I will take to the grave that nobody will ever know that, that I, chose to do. And there are also things, that I've done that are helpful to other people that have, brought people together that have, some people could look at it as, okay, well, yeah, y'all just da-da-da. But how I look at it, it's like, okay, well, and the parallel with the party in church, because some people can look like, okay, well, I don't go to church, but they in the fucking club. Excuse my language. Every other night, but that's still for some people. That's still a type of church, if you get what I'm saying. Like, but
I'm sorry, and it's probably. I feel like it may be that way because we know the church sometimes can be very judgmental, very. Where they can, criticize in place. But the club is like, everybody at the club. And it ain't just one. Everybody is themselves. They feel, a little free where you could just be themselves. They ain't really no judgment on them. And I'm not saying that's in every church or all the time at church, but...
Yeah, like, for real. Like, church say come as you are, but you come as you are for real, for real.
And to back it up a little bit, I think back to the choice or, circumstance, and I feel like with Smoke and Stack, like they wanted what they wanted and they was trying to get it. Mm-hmm. So they made a choice to go do what they do so they can have that shit.
Because I'm not going to lie, I would definitely be Stack.
I guess you could say by any means.
And to me, they came off as two people that, again, clearly came from trauma. And, kind of like what I talk about with my brother, where it's like, bro, we not going for shit. Like, not that we got to walk around as the hardest people. Like, I wouldn't even want people to not want to do, like, and that's what I liked about Smoke and Stack. It's like people knew not to play with them, but they weren't too afraid to not do business with them. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, they were able to, hey, I need signs done. Hey, I need 40 pieces of fish, whatever they were trying to put together. Hey, I need blah, blah, blah. I need security, because that's what Cornbread was, technically, which is so crazy, because you done got down, bro, that part, can I at least get my money? Bro, I like it, bro. This is so slick. Like,
are we still on the question of balance? Or we
yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say this too. So we see Smoke and Stack, we see Smoke in red, and we see Stack in blue. So symbolically, we could say the red is the yang, the masculine energy, and then Stack, he's wearing blue, the feminine, the yin energy. But what?
Can we say
Stack? No,
can we
Smoke
say calmer? Can we say blue is calmer? Because I look at blue as like.
Wait, Smoke was in blue, not red.
Yeah, Smoke was in blue.
Stack was in blue, and I feel like the color they were wearing the opposite color of what they were embodying. Because I felt even though Smoke was wearing the feminine energy, the blue color, I felt like he presented more of the masculine energy because he was more logical in his thinking, and he was chasing. He was chasing that money. He was
honestly,
and then so it's like they were wearing the colors of the energy that they needed to embody, and Stack was in red.
Yeah.
But Stack presented more emotional, like, understanding energy. But also, feminine energy, the yin, is also the dark side of balance. Well, we seen
I'm about to say
how him and old girl were
because when And I ain't gonna lie, see, that'd be me. I'd be all tough, and then look, she like, yeah, I see through all that. You said this, but what about that? I'm like, oh,
Stack was in red, but he was the more he was the more sweeter one. He wasn't as really as like, you know, he'd get down, get the business like Smoke was.
Well, and see, this is why this question was a bit tricky for me, because I feel like it was a mixture of both. There's circumstances coming from an abusive parent, having to live in the slavery of the South, made them choose to go to Chicago, or not even Chicago, but to have to go from a place where they know to a place where they don't know, and have to basically create their own life. And I think that because of that circumstance of like, hey, like, this is already toxic here, it's going to make me, you know, go crazy, instead of like just accepting that they wanted to create a better life. So that's why I was like, this question, I mean, there was no right or wrong answer, but I feel like it was a balance of both circumstances and choice. They chose to go to the North, and they chose to basically rob and make sure that they were taking care of themselves, and they were successful in a sense.
And even when they got to the North, and he was talking, because Sammy was saying he wanted to leave, like, and Smoke was telling him it ain't all what we thought it was, what you think it is. And so, yes, the circumstance led them to make that choice, and when they got there, it wasn't all amped up to what they thought it would be. So maybe it also could have been circumstance. So yeah, it could have been a balance. So they just kept doing what they.
Well, I'm gonna put myself in their shoes. You know, scraping together and, you know, changing your circumstance. Like that's what I'm like. I get it. Like, and you know, when you accept what comes with whatever, you know, comes with what they were doing, because again, you didn't go to Chicago to be a nice person. Like, you clearly were. You had a reputation where you were at. You went to, you know, which I kind of appreciate, because if you gonna finesse, at least go finesse the white people and bring it back to your folks and try to start a business. Because I'm like, that's kind of like, if you think about it in today's terms, that's what they did. It's like they finessed the white people, or like the banks, quote unquote, got the money, came back to their folks and was like, hey, we finna start our own shit, you know, employ our people, you know. But it was definitely, you know, choice and circumstance. But at the same time, it's like, you know, when your option is that or that, it's like, okay, like if I gotta look like a villain or a bad person, fuck it, because at the end of the day, you gotta take care of what you got going on, like, regardless of how you look. If you look like a good person, if you look like a bad person, you gotta handle your shit. Like, not saying they had to do that, but, you know, just thinking about, you know, what they like, and, you know, growing up in the South, music and all that stuff, you know, you going up there, coming back, and, you know, and even how I view, like, the club and church now, like, you know, it's crazy because the club is full of young folks, and then you go to church, and that's all they talking about is trying to get young people, and they recognizing, hey, we're all older, and yeah, it's what you appeal to. And before you move on to the next question, the thing with Sammy, like, crossing the veil, that's why I wish, you know, BDP Sounds was here, because, like, that part would have, like, he would have, like, it would have made so much sense. Like, a lot of people was like, you know, some people understood that scene, you know, with all the different genres or times of music dancing. Some people was kind of like, what's going on? But I look at that as, like, you know, or for me and my brothers, like, us being in the band and, like, you playing the song, or you in the club, you might hear a song from 2010. You might hear a song from 1999. But when the song comes on, everybody is moving, and it make you, like, it's live. Like, it can kind of, I guess, break that veil it was talking about, because that veil will be time in that sense. Because if a song came out in 1999 and everybody in the club moving in 2025, like they moving and grooving and like that's powerful.
And I'm gonna say this. I had and somebody said this on I was watching a TikTok video. Annie wasn't the only hoodoo.
No.
The person that practiced hoodoo. Sammy was.
Right.
Annie was the root worker. And then they said that she said that Sammy, I wish I knew her name so I can give her credit, but Sammy was the conjurer.
Right.
And because Annie was using the root working to protect, to heal, she knew what to use against the vampires. To answer, going back to your question, like, and Sammy was the conjurer because his gift, he brought everybody together. He brought everybody in, and that can be anybody, with the spirit, or I guess gift to like heal anybody with that, gift. I was going somewhere. I was going because my mind. I be thinking, but yeah. So Miss Annie, she wasn't the only one. And like in the beginning of the movie, that's what I was getting ready to say when she was talking about the griots or the griots. Those are storytellers. They use their voice. They use their voice to tell stories, whether it's through music, writing, whatever, or speaking, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, definitely got people like that in modern times.
I was, and that whole point of making sure that you tell your story is why we're here today, because this next topic we're going to get into is about matriarchy versus patriarchy, and I want to ask you guys, what did you learn from the mothers and the fathers of this film? Because for me, I already talked about Sammy's father, but let's talk about how Smoke and Annie's relationship played out and how their connection to their unborn child made them closer in a sense. Because for me, like I said, I think that with Smoke's choice to come back to Chicago, somebody said it on social media that he came back for Annie, and I agreed. That there was a connection there that he couldn't just let go of. Like there was something there that he needed to resolve and he needed to heal from, and also because of their, choice to become said villains, they had to come back to the South. But I want to ask you guys, what did you learn from the mothers and fathers of this film?
I think with both the mothers and fathers, they like took on like the best way they knew how, what they knew. And I feel like most of their beliefs come from, what they experienced. And because of that, they protected those they loved, whether it was their children, in the best way that they felt was best, or they knew how, because that's what was learned or taught or experienced by them. So that's just like going in with, like I was saying earlier with Sammy and his dad, like his father, experiencing something along that level, or being taught like that's what you're doing, is evil. And so he trying to keep him chained up in his beliefs, not allowing Sammy to be authentically who he is and utilize his gift, because God gave everybody a gift,
right?
And it's up to us to use it in the best way we know how, without compromising our soul. So that's what I took. That's what I took from it.
Okay. Jonathan?
For me, because I probably would have still been Sammy at the end of the movie. I still would have done that, and I kind of been in a situation, not the same, but like kind of what my mom was like, you know, as far as like the parties and stuff. At one point, she was like, "Nah, like it's too much going on." Actually, I think that was the time that girl got stabbed at Golden Glide, if I'm not mistaken. But at the end of the day, patriarchy, as we saw with the brothers, the dad, the only thing we heard was he was abusive. You know, and for them, you know, they did what they, you know, wanted to do for the most part. Sammy, you know, same thing, and you know, I'm a firm believer in that. Like, as far as no matter if it's matriarchy or patriarchy, like, you know, they gonna want the best for you and probably try to tell you like, hey, you should do this, or hey, you shouldn't do that. Don't be around this person. Don't go there. You know, but at the end of the day, and as we saw with Sammy, you know, he didn't just put the banjo guitar, whatever it was. He didn't put it down just because mom said that, hey, this is bad, or you know, for what you believe in. Well, not saying like that, but if your family was like, hey, well, we don't know about that. I don't like that. That don't mean for you to just be like, I'm not going.
Yeah, they kind of like that.
But the fact that you like, okay, like I hear where y'all come from, but this is what I believe in. Like, and again, my belief in my faith or what I like is stronger, you know, than that.
And I do feel like as long as I'm not causing harm to anyone or myself, like, it shouldn't matter. And I feel that way with, you know, people with different beliefs than me or part of a different religion. Like, I don't criticize, I don't judge what you practice, but you know, sometimes it get a little irritating because sometimes people see what I do or what I believe in, and they automatically, you know, they give me the side eye or they got, you know, something to say about it. But I think even like with Annie, we already know that they don't understand, so we're already accepting, like, we get it, okay, you know, it's whatever. But with anybody, as long as you have a relationship with the divine, with God, and you're not causing harm to yourself and nobody, I feel like it's a measure of your heart. That matters.
And for Annie, well, my last little piece, as far as like the miscarriage, or because like I said, it's something I'm still trying to figure out for myself, like if it's good or bad, like as far as me moving on, because I really don't have a problem with like moving on from things. Like, it doesn't mean I don't feel them, it doesn't mean I don't remember them. But what I also took away as far as them, you know, with their miscarriage, well, their child passing, and people paid attention, is like, yeah, Smoke, you know, you look nice, you dress, you whatever, you did this in Chicago, you got all this, you know, nice money, but, you know, when him and Annie were talking, you know, and they got to, you know, that part, it was like, you know, I could tell that Annie was moving forward. Like, yeah, she felt what happened. But it's like when Smoke was bringing up, it was like, okay, like, and even she kind of realized, like, okay, you ain't necessarily moved past that. Like, fast forward to the end of the movie, where, you know, I feel like, again, that's why she was peaceful on the other side. You know, her baby, like, hey, like, we ain't on you. Yeah. Or, you know, if you decide to, you know, cross over, and that's what, you know, I like, because, again, for Annie, she was a strong black, you know, woman that was about moving forward. You know, most movies, they try to have her, like, or her type, I should say, kind of hold people back. People don't listen to what she's saying. Or she telling you exactly what's going on, and everybody like.
And I'm glad we got to see. I'm glad we got to see that in another light, because for a long time Hollywood be making like witches ain't nothing but healers. Like I said, it depend on how you use your gift. And I feel like because some people experience certain things, because there are people that, you know, they dabble in that, you know, that's their forte, and they want to do stuff like that, whatever, out of whatever reason. But yeah, Hollywood been doing that for a long time. You know, giving people a show, making witches and warlocks and most of it seemed bad. But I was gonna say I just thought about it. I think Annie's connection to her lost child, I felt like that was her connection to Smoke because he went away. And I felt like if she ever lost Smoke, she would always have a piece of him with her child.
Right.
And then with her, talking about, going to the other side and waiting on Smoke. When she threw, whatever she had to throw, them coins and stuff, it was telling her like, this is this is what about to happen. Like right. It's coming. So go ahead and get prepared. That's why she was saying, look, I got the baby waiting for me on the other side, and we gonna be waiting for you.
And that's why with this question, it ties into the first topic for me, because what I learned from this movie is that patriarchy kind of set up the circumstances, like with Smoke and Stack's father being abusive. That circumstance led to them making the choice of, all right, we got to get rid of him, we got to move, we got to get out of this lifestyle. And the same for Sammy, like he knew that, okay, if he stayed in this religious, state of mind, stayed in the church, all of that, it would take him away from what he really wanted to do. So that's why I said the patriarchy side of it, it created the circumstances. But then you got the matriarchy with Annie and how she learned from her ancestors of, all right, this is what to do when this happens. It kind of led to her choices of, all right, I'm going to serve these people. I'm going to, basically help Smoke get to a point of enlightenment when it came to the magic part of, all right, there's other things out here that are going to present itself when it comes to, the vampires and all the other stuff. Yeah. So I think that was like, okay, it was a bit of circumstances as well, but it was also the choices to believe in that and, just basically ground yourself in the fact that loyalty is conditional. Because if you have someone who is willing to stick by your side, they're going to cross you whenever survival comes into play. And that's where the white supremacy and all the Remick, when he came into play, he wanted to survive. Even when it came to the natives, chasing after him, it was like, all right, it was a survival tactic, at the end of the day. And he offered money to the Klansmen, and it was like, all right, he's offering me money. He seems like a good guy, they didn't even think about the fact that, hey, this guy came out of nowhere. He could have been dangerous or anything like that. He offered money, so it was like it was a choice to let him inside. And that's why I feel like, again, the matriarchy of this film was based more on choice versus circumstances, and then the patriarchy balanced that out with, all right, well, this is my circumstances, this is where I was placed, this is how I'm going to be. And that's where I'm like, okay, well, there's the balance there for me. But since we already started into the topic, or the last topic, of religion and spirituality, I'm just going to ask you guys which one resonates with you. I feel like I already know Marty's side of it, but Jonathan, which one resonates well with you, religion or spirituality?
So I'm definitely not in church every Sunday, so I wouldn't say I'm an overly religious person. Definitely spiritual. Mainly because I've always been that kind of person. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm skeptical of everything or everybody, but I just was taught to always be thorough and to like look into stuff before you just, jump into it. Like whether it's a woman, whether it's a job, whether it's whatever. Like I'm not really interested in just doing stuff. So I was, definitely some spiritual. Because of course, growing up in the South, when it comes to Christianity, people would be like, I'm about to say a whole bunch of nothing. The same Bible that was used to, pray, over, Sunday dinner was also used by those white people to enslave, So, I'm not necessarily just somebody that where I'm just 100% gonna go by the Bible. But, when it comes to other practices, I hope that's the proper term.
Mm-hmm.
I'm receptive because I also know, that, again, the world, is bigger than me. I don't necessarily know what's on the other side, So, again, for all I know, I could be praying to the wrong God for all I know. But, in the overall scheme or in relation to the movie, definitely spiritual, and like I said, I would have definitely, been like Smoker, listening to my lady, or, just because again, I'm for what I'm seeing. Also, like it's a combination for me. Like it's what I see and what I
think was working.
Yeah, and what I feel. I don't just go off, what somebody tells me. That's with anything. Like, so yeah, to. Sum all of that up because, like I said, I feel like if you're not, because I'm like, if you're not firm in those two things, bro, anybody can kind of mold you any kind of way. Like, and I know, and I'm just keeping 100 people that I know like that, where it's like I can kind of mold like their thinking or how they, and it's like, no, bro, you got to be solid in what you believe. If you believe that I'm a vampire. And then, damn it, I'm a vampire. Like, if you believe that you need to, instead of me praying to my God, you need to go, in your corner, do your thing. Like, I try not to be dismissive because, again, I'm somebody that, hey, if all hell breaking loose, pray to every God. Like, I'm gonna be that. Actually, that's why when you go to jail, like that's why all them dudes that they start
converting.
I'm Muslim now. Yeah, I don't pray to this God. Like, yeah, you believe in all that stuff. Like a lot of that stuff started making sense. You're like, hold up. Wait, maybe this is making sense. Maybe all this stuff isn't, or how I look at everything is all related. Like, because we're all human, so it's like somebody might look at, somebody doing Haitian, I don't want to say black magic, that might be the wrong term. But, voodoo, praying, I look at all this stuff is like the same thing. It's just who and what you, like I said, believe in, like, for the most part. Like, because, like I said, Remy, he didn't really care about, what your religion was, what you, is your blood good? Oh, okay, cool. Like, join the game. Like,
I think with certain things, you gotta really, be tapped in and know what you're doing, do your research and stuff like that. But if I'm not mistaken, voodoo is a religion. It's a practice, and
it's not bad actually.
No, and I think you have to be initiated in voodoo, and then hoodoo is not a religion. Hoodoo, they just work with herbal elements. They work with elements, of the earth. So like plants and all that kind of stuff. It's healing. It's medicinal. It's protection. Before we got to all the pharmaceuticals shit. But so for me, I grew up Christian, and even my family, my background Christian. My grandfather a reverend, my grandmother evangelist. So I felt at one point I can say I think right after or a little before I had Russ, I was trying to get more into the word or my religion at the time. I even joined the church. The only thing I really enjoyed about church was going to sing. Being a part, I had joined choirs. I was like, I want to be a part of choir because that's what I felt good doing. It filled my spirit. Like, I felt the spirit. I loved it, and it was and sometimes it don't even matter about, I guess, the religion or who's speaking at the moment. Is the word. So, the church I was going to at the time, like, I could understand what he was saying, and I didn't feel like I was being criticized or shunned, because I wasn't completely, like, I felt like I wasn't as close to God as I thought I was. But then also with religion, I started feeling like I was in this box. Like, I was contained. Like, I just, box, like, I'm scared. I'm scared to do certain things because I'm going to go to hell.
Right.
Like, so
on some of their standards, technically I should be already.
And the more I had gotten into, I can be a really curious person, and I ended up coming into contact with this woman. She was actually my model coach at the time, but she was also a spiritual advisor, whatever you want to, call her. Mentor. I had called her my mentor at the time because it was helping me through my depression. So I had got my first tarot read from her, my first shadow work session. Like, we really had dived deep into some trauma and things like that. But then I was like, this feels good to me. This feels right for me. I don't feel contained. I don't feel no judgment. I can completely be myself. And then when I got more into it and studying, I was like, I'm good at this. And then I started discovering more of who I am, and just being able to, because healing ain't no one-step process.
Right.
It ain't a one-step process, and I learned that throughout my spiritual journey. So that probably happened in so I guess 2018, 2019 is it sparked my curiosity, but 2020 is when I started taking a deep dive. That's when shit started really stuff started really shifting.
Indeed.
And now I'm here in this space, and it feels right. It feels me. I don't feel contained. I don't, just like Sammy. His father wanted him to put that guitar down. He was trying to contain him. He was trying to restrict him. And Sammy was like, I'm glad he, went and made a choice to not put down the guitar, but he chose to do it in a way where he didn't have to compromise himself.
And this is why I say that Sammy's father was the real villain, or one of the real villains to me, because there was
villain.
Yes, he was.
Sammy's father.
Yes.
Villain is a strong word.
That's why I said it's layers to it, because
I gotta agree.
He wasn't the main villain.
Yeah. He
made himself more important because he wanted Sammy to follow his lead, but it was you didn't even understand your son enough to know that his way or his path was going to be what he wanted in the first place. So you telling him to put that guitar down, it's not what he needed to hear in that moment.
I mean, yeah, but if we go through how many, even my own mom, times where she told me hey, yeah, John, you need to stop doing this, or that,
she didn't tell you to stop playing that baritone though.
I mean, yeah, but I feel like even if she did, going back to what I was saying, it's not necessarily, if and actually going back to spirituality, I'm a big intent person. That's why, again, if I hate to say it, if I have to take somebody's life, if you bring that to me, I'm going to be able to sleep at night. I promise you, I'm not going to miss no sleep. I'm going to go down to I'm going to turn myself in it, the whole nine, because I'm going to be you brought this to me. I didn't bring trouble. God knows my heart. Like, I'm not tripping off that, but, just because, your parent tells you, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, I wouldn't say necessarily feeling per se. That's a parent saying, like I said, that's like mommy telling me. Actually, no.
Hold up. You ain't even let me explain why. Well, okay.
That's like mommy or Brandon's dad, like, and I don't, some emotional shit, like, for real. That's like them telling me and Brandon, hey, yeah, y'all going to these clubs and these parties, like, it ain't nothing there but some demonic stuff, like it ain't nothing but smoking and all this sex stuff and woo.
But they didn't tell you that though.
I mean, mommy.
You're saying what I'm saying.
Say I had to stop, but mommy was definitely like, and Brandon's dad like definitely.
They let you live your life.
Like they were like, "Yo, what are y'all going to? Like y'all are 15, 16. Y'all come back at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Like y'all
see what you.
But they did let us. Like I said,
they let you live your life.
And technically, we see that with Sammy though. Like, have we seen the movie where? Again, everything still played out. Stack and the vampire girl came to visit him, and he was like, "Oh, damn, you ain't playing the music no more." Oh, well, yeah, I put it down and da. I mean, yeah, that night was crazy, bro. But the fact that he was still playing, it was like, again, going back to what I was saying, like, it don't matter about your matriarchy or patriarchy. Like, it's about what you believe in and what you're doing. Because if you think that. And what Sammy did, well, clearly as a blues musician, like, you healing people. You're not going around going to these,
I think for I do feel like his father was a villain in a way because his father was getting to the point where he was invading. Mm-hmm. He was invading his freedom.
He?
Yes, because he was taking his guitar.
He was.
Sammy still was about to show up to the. He still had the.
See, Sammy had to make a choice.
He said the girls asking, "Hey, yeah, where you gonna be at Saturday, Sammy? Yeah, you gonna tell me like?"
But
Sammy made the choice.
Really stop nothing. Like,
he made the choice, but that's why I said because of his father's strong beliefs in his religion. This is why I thought that not only is he a villain, but he made it to where
he 2 minutes of the movie.
He tried again. That's why I say again. You gotta rewatch it.
And every time his dad approached him, every time his dad approached him was about him, living by the church or basically, the word.
He wanted him to follow his path.
Yes. Cool. That's what I'm trying to say. He was active. He was actively trying to snatch this.
But if we're applying this, but that's if you allow,
not letting him be authentically who he is.
But that's if you allow that. Just like if he allowed Remick to come in and hey, Sammy, we want you for your gift.
That's what I'm saying.
And he was like, okay, Remick, turn me into a vampire.
That's exactly what I'm saying. He was strong enough to deny what his father was saying, but that doesn't discount that his father was trying to make him follow this path and using religion as a weapon.
I mean, we could easily.
He was using it as a weapon to say, okay.
But when you said the word, actually, I'm gonna look up the word villain.
But listen, Sammy could have easily, what Sammy experienced, he could have easily dropped his guitar. Because I thought it was.
And honestly,
they got my ass at the end.
And if his dad was that good, if he was a villain would get. If he say, "Hey, put down that guitar," well, no, Dad, I'ma still play. A villain is gonna have you put that guitar. Like we wouldn't have seen him play throughout that. He would have been like,
that's why I said it's layers. It's layers to it.
And I'm not saying
a villain is a character, real or fictional, who is perceived as morally bad, wicked, or evil. They often act in opposition to the protagonist or hero and are typically portrayed as causing harm or suffering.
He was. He was.
And let me say this. Let me say this. When you are not living,
that's a strong word.
Because he's not using his God-given gift.
He was still using it though.
He chose to use it.
I'm not gonna say he wasn't using his God-given gift, but his
He
dad was
chose-
trying to take
He
that
chose
away.
to go against what his dad was saying.
And his dad was making him suffer by trying to control him.
I think
Trying to control him because he wanted him to follow his
that makes
follow
him
his
a
path.
the line that got me was when he
villain
told
is
his
crazy.
dad, when he said to his dad,
My
I want
dad
to
is
be
a
free
villain.
from this.
I think
When he told him, "Hey, I want you to be a part of this church, and I want you to say this for the
Sam could be
service,"
like, no.
he said, "I want to be free from this for a day. I've been working. I've been doing this, all of this over here. I did
And
all
his
my
dad-
chores."
His dad let him
He
do
said,
it though, right?
No, but again, he was still judging him in the
Yes.
midst of
It don't
him
matter.
saying that. That's why I'm saying his villain part. It wasn't just.
whether
And
you
a
doing
villain-
right or wrong.
a
That's what a villain is, though,
a
John.
villain don't
No,
have.
no.
Listen. But
I'm
listen,
saying the
what I'm
average
about to
person
say.
is gonna judge you whether you doing right or wrong. Like,
But
it
a villain don't
matter.
have to be somebody that's just doing wrong. That's just plain out evil. It don't.
This don't
And that's another
say
thing.
evil. It says
Listen.
morally.
You're
It says
looking at it.
It says
looking at it
more.
from-
And with that, because I was getting ready to say something
I'm going by
too
the
earlier.
English definition.
With that, and even with the Bible, we gotta look deeper and more than just the surface
Someone
of the word.
who
that's
deliberately
being
causes,
said
who
there.
deliberately harms others or breaks the law.
He is harming him,
he harmed him by
and
saying,
he's breaking the law.
You are basically
his
engaging
innate gift.
in that."
I agree.
doesn't
With,
want him
I
to
agree
use
with
the
everything I said.
name.
But what I'm saying is villain. That's a strong term.
That's why I said it's layers.
Villain?
It's
Yeah.
layers to it. It's not just that he's the main villain. It's not that he's the
Yeah.
biggest villain. I think that he's a villain because he didn't allow his son to live out his gifts.
He did though.
No, he did not.
He
did
was
not.
not trying to allow him to do
As-
that.
He was not trying
as
to
we
allow
saw,
that.
As we saw at the end, no.
He
But
had
that's
to
why-
choose.
No.
When Smoking Stack pulled
okay.
up,
Okay,
He
but
chose to
okay,
leave.
but going back to the to choice. Actually, fuck, I'm related to me. When I came out of my mother, it didn't matter what my father wanted for me. It didn't matter what my mother wanted for me. At the end of the day, it's what I want to do. So regardless of if mommy had told me, hey, you're hanging out with this guy Brandon, y'all going to clubs and all I see is fights and all this sexual
But
stuff,
for-
like that's
but
bad,
listen.
you need to stop going. And I'm like, okay, mommy.
But she would be, if you were telling
And
this
I still-
story.
and I still
listen,
chose to go.
If you were telling this story to somebody else, she would be the villain in it because she's trying to.
She's trying to stop
She wouldn't be the
Yes.
villain. She
She's
would be
trying
a,
to stop
She
you.
would be a parent. She wouldn't be a.
That's
villain.
not being a parent, Jonathan. See, now again, we
We
get
can see
into
being
a whole
actually
nother
being
topic.
protective, but
We get into a whole nother topic.
A protective parent. Like,
That's not being
because I
protective.
never once like I said, actually, as a matter of fact, when that girl got stabbed at Golden Glide, did mommy not tell us, oh yeah, y'all not going back to Golden Glide? And I remember because I didn't go back for at least like 3 weekends. But at the end of the day, mommy was like, okay, damn, this serious event, this girl really got stabbed. Like, this was on the news and shit. Like, but even if mommy was like, I don't want y'all, necessarily going, she eventually was like, okay, well, this is what you want to do. So I'm looking at it as like,
but
mommy
did
being a
mommy
villain,
ever
like-
use religion as the reason why you couldn't go back to Golden Glide? Did she ever say, "Oh well, God is going to judge you for going back to"? Exactly. That's my point.
okay,
He tried to use religion as the
but
reason.
even if he used it don't matter. Like I said,
That is
yeah,
a-
and he
that's
tried,
a weapon.
He tried to
But-
scare him out of.
but-
That's a weapon, Jonathan.
Okay,
Out of
but if somebody could tell me, hey, Jonathan, you had premarital sex, you're automatically going to hell. Okay, like you could tell me that, but that don't mean that I'm just gonna. Oh my God! No, like again, I'm like you said, like I made the choice to do this, so it is not necessarily me being a bad person or whatever. Or actually, I'm going back to the villain thing. Actually, no.
And, look at it. I got
respect
another
it.
example.
I respect
I
it.
got another.
Y'all
I
say
got another
villain.
example.
I'm going to say protective parent. I respect you
So
guys.
you think his father was being protective?
I respect you guys' viewpoint.
I got
yeah.
another example.
So- okay.
Okay, so if we're just talking about superheroes and villains, the superhero wants to save the world, but the villain is getting in the way of that. his dad, his father, was getting in the way
of him
being able to freely use his gift.
Define get in the way, because if
he didn't want him to go out,
he wanted him to follow his path, and he was using religion.
But if I'm a parent and I say, give me your banjo. And you able to walk over there, get your banjo, and look me dead in the face and say, "Yeah, Dad, I'm about to go da 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 da," and walk off, and I'm not able to stop you from still going.
But that just goes into you making a choice.
That goes into making a choice.
A villain is gonna stop you, but a villain is gonna stop you.
No, a villain is not gonna stop you.
A villain doesn't have to stop you. The villain don't always win, do they? Superheroes.
The villains don't have power over your choice.
No. But I'm not. You're talking about choice. What I'm saying is, when you said the word villain,
right?
Again, I looked it up. Whatever.
But you went back in the choice because you said Sammy made the choice, so that doesn't make his dad a villain.
Thank you.
Thank you. No. Okay. Maybe I said that wrong. What I'm saying is, again, when it comes back to everything, Sammy, all in all, because I know we be going hella long. When it comes to Sammy did in what I believe, and like I said, as far as what you want to do, like, and kind of. That's why I say when it goes back to a relationship, for me, a relationship, friend, family, it don't matter, like none of that, because at the end of the day, as we saw, Sammy had to live his life. It didn't matter what his dad told him. It didn't matter what Stack told him. It didn't matter what blah, blah, blah. If you want to be a blues singer until you're 80, 70, whatever age he was, if this is what you want to do that.
And so are you ultimately saying that we can look at Sammy's father as a person that he learned from instead of a villain?
Okay,
because and like I said, I say that because, like I said again, like I come from the South, like I know how religion is used. So, like that's why I made that mention early on, where I said, yeah, that same Bible that we used to pray over Sunday dinner was the same Bible that was used to, hey, I'm a white man, and according to this is why I should, have you enslaved. So like that's what I'm saying. Going back,
but to elaborate what I said, like instead of seeing Sammy's dad as a villain, we can see him as somebody that he learned a lesson from. And that was his test. His test was to make a choice. And even the test was even with Remick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he,
I feel like we've all had parents that,
And I just want to say this too. God is not always some external being. It's within you. Yeah. And that's what I was saying, about taking your body is your temple too. Taking care of your body physically, emotionally, mentally. Like you gotta find that person within your higher self, that person, that little voice in your head sometimes, that's your higher self speaking to you. No, like saying, oh, this ain't
and I'm so keen on that, like that's why I'm like people like and why I like the whole party thing with sinners, because I'm like, yeah, people look at me and be like, yeah, bro, you be da da da. But I'm like, no, my shit is an invite. Like, if you ain't who I fuck with, like the only thing you can do is watch and ask and be like, well, hey, when's the da da da? Or hey, yeah, I saw you at that, because I'm very protective. At one point it was like, yeah, actually we both were like that. Yeah, everybody come into the crib. I don't care. I'm not gonna charge you nothing. Yeah, everybody have fun, but it's like, no, you gotta be protective of that. Like, again, you don't need a 3-story house. You're like, whatever is your space, whatever is your mind, whatever. Like I said, it could be your work. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier, like work. Mm-hmm. If you can't come into a space where your work environment and you got this kind of vampire over here, and damn, you're draining, and like that shit weighs a toll on you. And I'm like, I'm not going for that, because you're just going to be drained and everybody going to move on. Hate to say it, but that's the reality of what's going on. So,
well, to round this topic out, because we have gone over a little bit of the time frame, but ultimately I feel like the biggest hero of this movie was Sammy. Him playing and him being the conjurer of the spirits and making everyone come together. He was the one who had the ultimate power in the end. But the reason why, again, I think that his dad was the villain, because he made it to where, again, he thought about, okay, my dad is over here saying I need to do this. Religion is telling me, okay, I need to honor my father, I need to honor my mother. But of course his mother wasn't alive, so it's like, okay, my father is telling me to do this, but deep down I love this over here. So that's why I said he had to make the choice of, okay, whether I choose to do what my father wants me to do or choose to do what I love to do. And he ultimately made the right choice. But that's why, again, when you think about it deeper than just, okay, like a villain is a person like Remick who wants to take my blood, he wants to take my powers and all of that stuff.
What is Remick?
Again, he's a villain too. That's, again, we're not.
That's two different spectrums.
That's why I said it's layers. I thought I said that.
It ain't like that's spectrum.
That
like,
is layers.
Remick and his dad.
That's layers, because again, Remick on one end, Remick wanted his powers. He wanted him to bring him closer to his people that again were a part of him and made him who he was. He wanted to take Sammy's gifts. That's why I'm saying he wanted to use Sammy for his purpose. But his father again wanted to use Sammy to basically be a religious figure in his church. And that's why, again, he is a villain in the movie.
I say this with the utmost respect. Sammy wasn't even thinking about his dad. Sammy was in that goddamn easy pussy.
But why wasn't he thinking about his dad? If his dad was a hero,
his dad ain't that much of a villain.
If his dad was a hero, why wouldn't he think about, hey, my dad is over here telling me to do this? Why wouldn't he think about his dad? If that's what I'm saying.
Because a villain would stop me from getting some pussy. That's a villain.
His dad was basically saying you're around people that's sinning, that's doing the things that you shouldn't be doing.
But he didn't stop nothing.
But Remick didn't stop him either.
No, Remick was about to stop him.
He didn't stop him though. He didn't stop him. Okay. That's what I'm saying. You're looking at it because of his dad didn't stop him, but he was trying to. His dad was saying, "Hey,
I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just saying when you say the word villain again, looking up the definition, not what I think.
So you're looking at it from a definitive standpoint, but I'm saying that the layers to it. His dad, if he would have listened to his dad in the first place, he wouldn't even been in that position.
But and going back to why I would be, like I said, Stack, Smoke, or the combination of, because again I would be the kind, I don't have time to be contemplating with myself. What does my dad think? I don't have time for all that shit. It's like, hey, if this is what I want to do, and even how I move in my life in real life, like everybody sees that. Like, if I want to go move and do here, if I want to be around this, I'm not too much worried about what hell, even if mommy was alive, like, you know, or whoever, like, I wouldn't be, I would tell mom, even if she told me, yeah, John, I don't know, unless it was something that was like causing harm, you know, to everybody, or, you know, just some crazy shit, I'm finna go do that. Like, I feel like, you know, we live in a society where people get too caught up in, again, the mental of, okay, well, this family member wants me to do that. My mom said this, my dad said that. No,
but that's what I'm saying. He didn't get caught up.
Your people just want you to be, you know.
You're not. You're saying that from that standpoint, but that's what I'm saying. He didn't listen to his father because his father was coming from a religious standpoint.
The only thing that I was debating was the word that when you use the word villain, I was like, that's a
it's a strong word to you. But again, it's layers to whether he is a villain or he's a hero. Because if you look at it from, okay, did he help Sammy his storyline, or did he take away from it?
You don't have to look at it as a hero or villain. You just look at it as
a hero or a villain. You know, a hero is going to kill, or A hero isn't going to stop you from being you.
But and I'm glad you just said that. Stop you. So again, had the movie started from the time when he went to the church, his dad said, "Hey, I want you."
His
to stop
dad was
this.
trying to stop
I
him.
told him, no. We're not talking. You didn't say the word trying. You said stop. You didn't say.
But
stop
that's what
trying.
I'm saying.
So
If
I'm
you're
going off
looking at it as if he's a villain or he's a hero,
I'm-
you can't say, "Oh, well, his dad didn't stop him,
I'm not looking
but
at
he's
it
a
as-
hero because he tried to protect him."
Actually, what was the original question?
Because I said, who is the real villain and who is the fake villain? That's why I said he's a real villain because he tried to stop him.
His dad is a villain, and his
Yes,
and Remick
his dad is a villain.
It's some.
Who's the real villain?
Well, in my storyline
That's what I'm
again,
saying.
there's layers to
Villain?
it because you got Remick, who's the real villain. You got the Klansmen, who were real villains, and you also got his father, who was a real villain. Because again, he wouldn't even got to that point of showing his gifts.
Is this coming from a personal?
No, it's
No,
not.
I
It's not
wanted-
personal at all. It's me watching the movie and seeing that even after all that he went through, his dad was still trying to say, okay,
His dad was still accepting even when he came back.
I didn't say he was accepting or not denying.
No.
I'm saying that he was
A
still
villain,
trying
bro?
to say that he went through all of that
When you use the
and
word-
still was trying to condemn him because of what he did.
Well, if we're going, if we're going off the movie, technically, we saw 5-10 minutes of his dad during the daytime, whatever church time. Hey, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. Blah blah blah. Blah, 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 blah. After that, after he left his dad, it wasn't no more like his dad popped up at the juke joint. And,
That's the same with the Klansmen.
This is what
I
I'm
was
saying.
gonna say
Like,
we can say his dad was the fake villain because he didn't even realize he was being
I would go with that.
The villain
I would say
because-
fake villain, yes,
because he
before,
was
like,
trying to be
villain.
protective. He called himself being protective.
Because we done seen plenty of movies where dads, house
But
party, what did the dad do? He
subconsciously
popped up at
or
the party.
unconsciously, he was the
That's a villain.
But he didn't
was
use
keeping,
religion.
He was trying to keep
Okay,
Timmy
so,
away.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, so if you're caught up, well, let me not say caught up. If you're referencing the religion part, yes. Again, we grew up in the South, like that's why I said, hey.
But take out the religion. It was just about Sammy just
The same.
being who he was.
Go back to what I was saying. Like even
And doing what he
before I
was.
pray, technically, the prayer that I say before I eat my food, somebody could look at that and be like, yeah, like that's from the same Bible that was used to enslave you. Okay, cool. But again, how I interpret it and what it's used for, like what I, again, going back to what I was saying earlier about filtering. It's not about, oh well, this person used religion. Oh, well, this person tried to hate that. It don't matter. Like I said, if you a strong person, where again, like we saw with Sammy, if I want to play this damn banjo with this guitar, it don't matter if this goddamn vampire say, oh, I want you to play for me. It don't matter if my dad say, hey, you need to be playing here on Sunday. It don't matter if Smoke or Stack tell me, oh, bro, we gonna make some money, bro. You gonna play this juke joint. It's not about that. It's about what I want to, play and how I want to do it. Because as we saw, Stack Stack put a fucking gun to his head and said, hey, no, actually, if you trying to do that, fuck it. No, like
But that's why he's a fake villain.
You're not necessarily a villain. Like you, somebody that again has been where this person is talking about going, and you like, bro, no, like it ain't. What you
Ultimately-
thinking. And at the end of the day, Smoke didn't necessarily stop him or be like.
Ultimately, all of them were not trying or didn't want to or were allowing Sammy to experience life the way Sammy wanted to experience it. Because of what they experienced,
Yeah, yeah.
or because of what they wanted.
Cause if we talking about villains, I'm more concerned with the wife or the girl.
'Cause
Like, that's what Sammy is. I'm like, she a villain. You a whole wife. What you doing?
This
with
is
it?
why I asked
Like,
you
what the hell?
who, in your opinion, is the real villains. But we are already getting over time, and it's going to have to go into a part 2 for this topic because this is very juicy, and I feel like,
And I
again,
definitely wanted to
I mean,
answer.
I'm
I definitely wanted to answer the last question.
I know you did because man, this is a very juicy topic. This very juicy movie, but thank you guys for tuning in tonight for this episode of Balance. We're going to have to come back to you, part 2 of this episode. And I just want to thank you for coming out tonight, Marti, Jonathan. This has definitely been a great topic to embark on, but this is Before the Fame. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back to you with another episode next week. And yeah, man, this has been fun. Thank you guys. Yeah, we're out.